Yes, hello world. What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. Hulu's Reprisal drops you into a dark, richly detailed Tarantino-esque world of brawling rival gangs and elaborate roads to revenge. There's muscle cars, there's pinups. It's the kind of show that looks like it was almost as much fun to make as it is to watch. Joining me now to tell me if that is in fact the case from the Hulu original Reprisal, the great Rhys Wakefield is here. How about that, guys? I'm excited. You excited? They're excited, hooting and hollering over here. There we go. We're gonna bring them out in just a second. But first, I believe we have a trailer for the show. So you know what? Let's go ahead and run that clip.
What time you got?
We should go.
Why are you here?
To take care of some business. Because my brother's gang did me very, very wrong.
Remember, we were up the Banished Brawlers, and this here is what cars are called.
They've corrupted everything down south.
These are good times we're living in. We're untouchable.
And if you get in their way, they don't mind shedding a little blood. To the point where my brother and some others dragged me through a field with their truck.
Why would they do that for?
I'm afraid that part is a little more complicated.
The streets alive.
What do you plan to do to them?
The way you into the dark.
You don't want to know.
Desire.
I have someone on the inside.
The danger.
We're in this together. And it might get messy.
I might just tear you apart.
We don't kill people. Unless we have to.
War is not something we should be afraid of.
It's time to tie up some loose ends.
She's come back for revenge, and I don't blame her.
I didn't see this coming.
What did you get me into?
These things don't happen overnight. Keep your head up and your eyes open. I feel as though something's waking up inside me. This darkness, like a sickness. And you helped me realize it. So, I'll be seeing you soon.
You're my killer van.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise. Rhys Wakefield right here. Come on. Give it up. Hey, man. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here. Congratulations. We were just saying, this show's insane.
Oh, dude, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thanks for having me. It really is quite a wild ride, this show.
I'm excited to talk to you all about it, man. How are you doing? How's life? You said this is your last day in New York?
It is. It's my last day in New York. I've been traveling and promoting the show, and it's been quite an adventure, quite a wild ride. I feel a little discombobulated, but nothing different to what's being presented in this show, I think.
I hope a slightly different lifestyle than what we see in the show.
Maybe just
a little bit.
Yeah.
Tweaked and just a little bit. But that's very exciting. When you guys had, I think I saw maybe within a week or so, you did the premiere in Hollywood, right? You had a big premiere for it.
That's right.
Very cool.
Yes.
A lot of people came out for that. And I saw that you looked really nice there, man.
Thank you.
It's cool. Talk to me about that evening. That must have been a great experience. Had you seen the episodes of the show before? Was that your first time seeing it? What was that like, man? Tell me.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to see the first episode at Comic-Con in New York a couple weeks ago now, which was pretty exciting to see with the live audience. That was my first time seeing it. So the premiere was a really great celebration. A victory lap, indeed, where we're all gussied up and feeling fancy in some nice, lavish clothing that doesn't feel like me at all. So it was really great. It's an amazing cast. I think Abigail Spencer, who's the lead of our show, she just kills it. She's really, I think, her performance is a sight to behold. So I think if nothing else, being a vessel on a machine that is delivering something like that is pretty exciting to me.
What was, not to go too far back in time, but that Comic-Con screening, man, when you're sitting there and you're almost seeing people react, watching that more than you are watching the show itself. What was it like to hear, gasps, oohs, see people react to this thing for the first time? What was that like?
It really was everything that I had hoped for. I mean, it's an electric feeling seeing something for the first time that you've worked really hard on, and these writers have put so much time and energy into it. But you're absolutely right. Your attention is less about the screen and more about the audience and how they're gasping in all the right places. It was amazing. The audience in Comic-Con, at Comic-Con, were really energetic. So,
And that could be a tough crowd too. Like Comic-Con is known for being like, oh, everybody's here because they're in and they're involved, but they're also like the experts of these genres and worlds. So it's like if you got to win them over, man, that's the room you want to get. Like that's the one.
I've heard this. It was my very first Comic-Con of all time. So who knows if the experience will be as positive next time.
I think so.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Well, talking about experiences, man, making this show must have been a crazy experience. And you're right, it's so richly detailed, and you can see all the love and attention that the writers put into it. How'd you get involved? How'd this come to be the thing that you were working on, man? How did it happen?
I just read the script and really loved this character, and I went in and read for it with the writer, Josh Corbin, who created this just as a spec. It was just this fever dream that came to him, Lord knows when, at some crazy hour at night, and he's worked on it for years now. So I went in and read for him a few times and was lucky enough for him to entrust me with this amazing character. This guy that I get to play, I think, is really quite something.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Maddie in a second, but like it really is. It's one of those things where you look at it and it's so detailed that you go, is this a thing that actually happened somewhere that I'm not aware of? Like, like what is this world?
Totally.
What state is this in? Where is this happening? How much of that was on the page when you were reading it, and how much of that when you showed up on set for the first day was like immediately apparent, like, oh man, I'm in this world. Like,
it was a lot of conversations with the writer to fully understand what is this world that we're hitting the ground running with. He had always said this perfect example. He was like, I feel as though he read some meme and he felt as though it was pertinent for our story, where if we lived in Game of Thrones, if we all lived in the Game of Thrones world, I feel like I'd be spending the whole time asking everyone, wait, what is your name again? Who's your dad? What do you do again? And he was like, it's that idea, that's real life. I meet people every day that I don't know who they are. I can't remember what they do or what their name is. And he wanted that sense. And I think he achieved it with this world. It's very rich, very detailed and textured. It's kind of like this rockabilly Game of Thrones, I suppose.
That is another great way to describe it. There's so many different facets to this thing. There's like I said in the intro, there's like a Tarantino-esque vibe to it. There's that sprawling like mythology that you would get from like a Game of Thrones. And even in the first episode, I don't know if it's just breaking the fourth wall or just sort of the way you carry Maddie and the way like he sort of postures as he walks around. But there was like an air of like Fight Club, Tyler Durden-esque, like follow me, kid, I'll show you how this works. How did you build Maddie? How did you put him together? What were some of your inspirations?
Yeah, every reference you made were real references for our director, as well as, I think, tonally some Coen Brothers vibe, where you have this incredible violence intercut with something that's relatively comedic or undercuts the tension. So my preparation was really trying to understand that tone that we were all going into, how sincere or earnest one had to be versus winking to the audience, breaking that fourth wall. And I think it's important with this that we do break the fourth wall slightly to let the audience know that these are tropes and we're turning them on their head and making them psychedelic and colorful and bringing imagery that you maybe are familiar with, but then twisting it in a way that's for a contemporary audience. My process with building this character was really, I'm always inspired by animals. I think that they're very informative for how humans behave, and they have a lot of characteristics that are amazing driving forces and points of inspiration. So with Maddie, I think it was kind of, I felt as though he was this kind of a cobra in a way that was alluring and interesting, but has a very dangerous, unpredictable bite if you get a little too close. And over the course of the series, his animal transforms. But I won't tell you what that is. You'll have to watch it to see.
No, we won't give anything away at all. It definitely, because there are some surprising revelations throughout this. There's some twists and turns, characters that you think are going to make it and don't make it, and so on and so forth. But without giving anything away about what he transforms into, there's definitely sort of a door open for you to go really exciting places with Maddie. Did you guys talk about that roadmap and how far like down the vision goes? Or was it very much focused on, let's get to the end of season 1?
We did actually talk very far ahead. There's quite a large mythology that has existed both before and would continue to exist if we are lucky enough to continue to tell the story. And this is the amazing vision of Josh Corbin. I think it's what got A&E Studios and Hulu and Littlefield Company all on board. It's this unapologetic vision that he has. These people feel real because he has a vision of how they progress, what their future is, and what their past has been. So I really hope we get to tell it, because this character goes to some wildly interesting and photographic places.
Is that a blessing or a curse, knowing that far ahead? Because you kind of, at that point, are able to make decisions that you can now lay the groundwork, you can plant those seeds, but also that could be overwhelming. That could be daunting in a way of like having to map out somebody's life and knowing that far ahead. How do you feel about having all that information? What does that do for you?
I love it. I think Josh works in a similar way to how I work with my writing or filmmaking, which is that you kind of have these anchor points, these visuals, these visions of a character doing something. How exactly you get there, we'll figure it out together. That'll be the collaboration. But I think as long as you have these kind of bold visions, these postcards of this character, these posters of what they might be as they evolve, then we can kind of build toward those. So that's kind of, I think, a real gift of his, to give me those visuals. Yeah.
The Three River Phoenix is a very tight-knit group. Talk about working with Mena and David, man. Like how you guys, what was it like in between the takes? Did you guys do anything to bond, to like sort of make that feel more real than it already was, where you guys immediately clicked, the chemistry was there? Talk about just that ensemble, the three of you guys together.
Oh, Mena, David, and I are just so close at this point. We really are like brothers. I mean, all of our scenes, in the same way that Game of Thrones, so many of the actors never really interacted until those opportune little moments or parts of the story where you intercept each other. But I love those boys. They're amazing men. They're really clever and talented individuals, and hilarious off set. So we played a bunch of baseball, which is not really a pastime for me. In case you can hear, I'm not American. I'm
Wait, what?
Yes. The cat's out of the bag. So that was really fun. That was kind of like I was living my own parallel American dream life. Mena is Canadian.
I'll just live in the American.
Yeah,
was that
I
like
know.
what you guys assumed Americans do? Like,
Seriously.
Oh, we might as well play baseball.
Yeah.
There's nothing else going on.
Seriously.
That's what they.
To me, everything when I first moved to America looked like a movie. I see the yellow school buses. I even see red cups. That's like a movie to me.
No way.
Yes, everything is so novel. I see the white picket fences, the baseball games on the side. It's all very picturesque.
There's versions of those things floating around. If you're
There are.
man. You can find them. When did you first move to America? How long ago was that, man?
I moved to LA when I was 19, and I'm 31 now. So
It's been a minute.
whoa, that's crazy. Time flies.
Yeah. I was looking at your IMDb to see what else you had coming up and stuff, and I was looking at down at the bottom to see where you started, and you were on a pretty big Australian. Is it considered a soap opera?
It is.
Yeah, and you did, and I bring it up because you did like 300 some odd episodes. You said, right?
I did.
And I go down this road because whenever I talk to somebody who's been on a soap opera, American, Australian, or otherwise, and they've done that many episodes, they always talk about it as like being like the actor's boot camp. Like they learned so much from doing it. And I'm curious, what have you taken with you from project to project? Something you learned in doing that many times and working on that show. What was like? What groundwork was laid back then?
Well, I started on that show. I started on Home and Away, this Australian, it's this Australian soap that airs 5 nights a week, year round. Basically, I think they have like a 2-week hiatus, maybe around Christmas.
That's it.
Which is, that's it. It's very important. Yeah. So it's like a boot camp of sorts. You treat it as a full-time job. I started when I was 16, so I was in my second last year of high school, which was a lot. That was a lot of juggling. But because you're working 5 days a week, you're shooting 30 minutes of screen time. Right. To put it in perspective, when you're shooting a movie, you're shooting maybe 2 to 3 minutes a day of screen time. So it was an incredible amount of pages that you had to get through and learn. You couldn't be precious with the material. You kind of had to do what you wanted to do quick, and not fluff about, for lack of a better word. So I thought that was pretty amazing. You also have a feedback network where you can see yourself on screen. And I walked in thinking I pretty much knew what I was doing, and I saw my work on screen, and it was not good.
You did not.
I did not know what I was doing
At all.
contrary to what I thought. And that was good. It really knocked my ego.
It's important.
Yeah, you see yourself failing, and that was important.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I did that for 3 years, and then kind of.
It's pretty incredible, man. When did you, in your career, because this year I believe was your marked your directorial debut, feature length directorial debut with Berserk, which we'll talk about in a second. But when did you know? Not only do I want to act, I want to get behind the camera. I want to direct as well. When did that bug first bite you?
It has always been my ultimate goal. I think ultimately I love filmmaking and telling a story. I think that film is the director's medium. It's not really the actor's. I think theater is the actor's medium. But I just love being a part of storytelling. I think to be able to have a vision in your head and to be able to convince enough humans to build that vision is really a special and surreal experience. There are a few that are that special, I think. So yeah, it's always been something that I've been focused on, and it's probably forced me to engage a bit more when I am on set, to ask questions from different departments and understand how it all works.
It's working on Berserk, did that live up to this sort of romanticized version of like, this is the medium, this is the thing? Or did you get there and you were like, well, it is, but holy shit, this is hard? Like,
Yeah.
Like, was it a reality check? Almost in the same way, like on the soap, where you're like, I know what I'm doing, and like you saw that you didn't. Like,
Totally.
What was that experience? Like,
Totally.
This is your first feature film.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a certain naivety of going into these things where every hour of experience you hope is going to culminate to this moment and help you when you really need it. And it was a lot. I think the experience was incredible in that all directing really is funneling the expression of others. You know, you give people these characters or these roles on set, and then when you empower that individual, I think they can gift you with something quite special, something that you would have never been able to come up with on your own. And so when you funnel that expression into your vision or into the world of the script, it's incredible. So I think for me, it was about learning to be both open and collaborative, but also manage my time in the most efficient way possible, knowing that it's about making good decisions fast, not great decisions slow. So yeah, I would say that I wouldn't act in something that I direct again. I only did it because I produced the movie as well, and I didn't want to have to pay another actor. So I wrote it and produced it and directed it, and I started it just to save money. So that was that. And Nick Cannon is the lead, and he's an incredibly gracious, professional person and a talented actor. So it was amazing. Once he came on board, he read the script and was very passionate about it, really understood the world that I wanted to create, and he told me he wanted to be a paintbrush to my vision. So super cool. It was really awesome. He's a cool guy. Yeah. He's a cool guy, yeah.
He's a nice guy. We had him on a bunch of times.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I read somewhere that it was based on someone breaking into your house or your apartment. Is that true?
It is.
So and you were like, so through that dramatic experience, you're like, I'm gonna turn this into a movie.
Yes, indeed. I know. I think terrible experiences probably all turn into movies eventually. I was asleep in my bed, thankfully, at 6 a.m. and I woke to the sound of my back gate scraping open, and there's a bell on this gate for the reason of, I guess, reasons like this.
Is this in LA or Washington?
This is in LA. So this is in the Hollywood Hills, and I had just kind of moved there, and I thought that was like the cool place to live. And at 6 a.m., I woke up to these bells, and I looked out my door, and I saw that the door was slightly ajar, and there was this bell that was still moving in its socket. And it's funny how you quickly think that you've created it in your own imagination. Yeah. And so I was about to go back to bed, and then I opened up the door to our living room, and there was a gentleman trying to pry open my window in broad daylight. And I was in my pajamas, I'm in my boxer shorts, and the first thing that I yelled out was, "What the F do you want from us?" For some reason, that's the first thing that came out of my mouth.
What do you want? What are your demands?
Yeah, what are your demands? Like I had just resigned to this happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess he's coming in. And so he saw me. He was as frightened to see me and hear my outright ridiculous question of what do you want from us. Yeah. And he had to run the length of the house to get away. And I could have cut him off at the front door. And it was sort of that moment, actually, where there was a hammer in my living room where I'd been putting together literally the movie. There is this feature in the movie, and I had wondered what would happen if I cut this individual off with this hammer and did something and killed them. And this is my house, you know, like that fight or flight rage. The
You're
animal.
an American now.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Right, right.
That is it.
Yeah, far out.
It's my house.
Yeah, this is my house. And in the end, I was like, well, what am I going to do? I mean, how tragic this whole situation, really. The reality, yeah, exactly. And then the fight or flight response sets in, and he got away, and I ran out yelling out my window, the police are on their way, like some self-righteous individual. And then I thought it was all quite funny after.
Never get away with it.
Yeah. Seriously, fist in air, like a cartoon character. So that it was that experience that kind of inspired this idea of, well, what if I did cut this individual off? What if I did actually hurt them? And what if actually they died?
Yeah.
No one wants that, no matter the situation, no matter who or what is trying to break in. So that was the inspiration of Berserk.
That's wild, man.
And it is wild. It's a wild little movie.
It is. 100%.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, where can people see Berserk? Let's start with that.
So Berserk is available to rent and stream on iTunes and Amazon and Microsoft, anywhere that it's available.
Anywhere you can rent and stream.
Yeah.
This show, Reprisal, this is on Hulu, and you got to watch. If you haven't watched all of it, go do it right now. It's so addicting, man. It's perfect binging television. Like, they've built it for that. Like, they know you guys know what you're doing.
Hey, well, I'm happy to hear that. Yeah.
Super engaging and cool, man. And you get to the end of the episode, and you're like, well, I need to know what's going to happen next now.
Oh, that's excellent.
Pretty
man.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm
Well
very
done.
excited for people to check
Cheers.
it out. All on
Before we wrap things up, I want to make sure we got some questions. Somebody from Twitter and some people in the room. So let's do that real quick. The first one is from Madison Davenport, which is the most proper I've ever seen. Okay, there we go. Bruna. There's the name. So they want to know, Rhys, what's your favorite episode from season 1? Great question. Favorite episode?
I would say, I think it's episode 6 where there's a heist. It's very exciting. I think that's where the show really hits its stride. It becomes quite unique and incredibly a visual feast. So I would say 6. Yeah.
Was there a moment because when you're making the show, you're aware of the style insofar as the detail of the set, the characters, what you've read. But then there's like what comes to mind is there's a phone conversation. I forget what episode, and it's just like close-ups of their mouths and like split screens and all these interesting like stylized decisions. And by the end of the conversation, they're on the couch together, and it just kind of like blew my. I was like watching. I was like, what did I just see? Right. Was there a moment like that when you saw the show? Where you were like, I had no idea this was going to look like this. Like, what did I just witness?
Truly, there's a moment in the first episode that I was jumping up and down like a little boy because I just couldn't believe that I was on something that looked this cool. Yeah. And it was a sequence where Madison Davenport, an actress in the show, her character roams through a club, what's called the Bangarang, which is kind of this like main club in our story. And she roams through this space. The camera doesn't cut. It's all on a steady cam, and it lasts for about 3 minutes, and it's an amazing dance. It's really beautiful. We had the same Steadicam operator who shot La La Land shoot it, and Larkin Seipel, our DP, sort of designed this really great world. It was very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, great question. Thank you. Let's go ahead. We got 2 more in the room. Let's do it up. You got a microphone. Go for it.
Hi.
Hey.
I was just wondering if you have any dream collaborators.
Dream collaborators. That's such a good question. I mean, I fanboy about Paul Thomas Anderson, or, I mean, Steven Spielberg, obviously, is amazing. I think, I would say Paul Thomas Anderson is sort of the ultimate like actor's director. That seems very exciting to me to see his work is always so unpredictable. I love his movies.
When you were in Sanctum, and I know he was an EP, but James Cameron was a part of that project. Did you ever cross paths with him at all?
It's funny you say that. I was literally about to say, or collaborate with Jim Cameron again, but he's amazing. I worked with him quite a bit on the set. He was an EP on this movie I shot called Sanctum a few years ago, and I spent a bunch of time with him. In fact, he was kind enough to read my script, Berserk, the movie that I directed, and he read it quicker than my agents read it. He read it within 2 weeks, and he emailed me 3 days after I sent it, and he was like, I just want you to know I haven't read it yet. I don't want you to freak out. I'm really excited to read it. And he sent me back the most beautiful, clever email. I mean, he really read every word, and he was so cool. I mean, he gave me such a sense of, I suppose, strength. He's one of my heroes. I mean, James Cameron, I know. I still say it to myself. I'm like, I can't believe he even knows I'm alive. I can't believe I emailed him a script and he read it. And yeah, so it's James Cameron. He's amazing.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah,
he's
awesome.
amazing. Very cool. Thank you for your question. Can we do one more? Thank you, Kate. Let's get one more. You got a microphone. Go for it.
Hello. I was wondering what were some of the hardest scenes to shoot during this series?
I think the most challenging scenes for this show for me were the car stuff, just because there's so many moving pieces. Literally, you're in a car, the director's in a car, the sound guys are in a car, the camera guy's in another car that's zipping around you, and that car has an arm that's like zipping around their car. So that gets a little hairy at times. But our stunt team are amazing. But I think that's where you're like, what are we even doing? Like, what lines do I have to say here? I'm just like trying to keep my eyes open, and the wind is blowing, and there's incredible heat. We shot in North Carolina, so it was all over the summertime. It was quite real. Yeah. Thanks.
Great question. Well, thank you guys for being here and hanging out and being an awesome audience. Congratulations again, man, on everything. So Berserk, you can check it out wherever things are streaming. Reprisal, you can catch on Hulu, which you should absolutely do right now. Anything else you want to tell people before you get out of here?
No, just thanks for coming and thanks for checking it out.
For sure. Well, thank you for being here. It was so awesome to have you, Rhys. I really appreciate you hanging out with us. Congrats on everything. I look forward to whatever's next, dude. Guys, do me a favor. Make a crazy amount of noise right now. Let's thank Rhys Wakefield for being here. Do it up. Let's go.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir.